Hello, how you guys doing? My name is Tochukwu Udenya. I'm here with Joe Whitaker. He's the Business Development Project Manager Office of Economic Development for Jacksonville. It's a great, distinct honor to be sitting here talking to you, getting some guidance. I greatly appreciate it. This is for my Western Carolina University entrepreneurship master's degree. And you asked me a question, what are my goals in my business? Well, I want to pursue a distillery with a tasting room. I want to produce 3 distinct liquors, gold, platinum, and diamond. I'm in the initial infant stage of my business where I have a business plan, but I don't have an actual product.
I quit drinking 32 years ago. What specific spirits are they?
Well, that's a good question, because especially some of that quick drinking one is going to be liqueur.
Okay. I'm a Jack Daniel's Black kind of guy.
Okay. So aged product. One of my products is going to be aged. My platinum is going to be my most aged product. 5 to 10 years plus age before I even hand out to the public. Each is going to install local ingredients that I'm going to utilize. One of the main ingredients in all 3 products is going to be honey. And another main ingredient, but it's going to be different, is tea leaves. Okay. That's going to be infused in the product. So that's my...
Yes, it could be like a whiskey, a bourbon, a vodka, or...
Whiskey for my platinum, vodka for my for my diamond, and for the gold it's going to be more of a cognac.
Okay. Because vodka you don't have to age for very long.
Right. That's going to be my most pure product. So that's going to be diamond.
Vodka's popular right now.
Right, and it's going to be off that craft movement that's been taking over the world by storm recently. Almost doubled every year for the past 6 years. So that's my game plan in the near future.
Okay.
But one of the things about this type of business, you need funding, and funding could be tricky. And then my goal in this conversation is trying to understand the state side and local government side of obtaining funding or grants or anything that you guys could offer startup companies.
Well, I don't need to bust your balloon, but there are no grants for people starting business.
Okay.
That's a great myth.
Gotcha.
Generally, businesses are started with friends and family money.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people start with credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
But startup businesses are the most difficult to finance because, number one, unless you're experienced as a spirits maker,
mm-hmm.
then we're paying you to learn.
Right.
So you need to really look at either an angel investor who's kind of into the spirits that would enjoy the adventure with you.
Right.
And there are a lot of people of them out there. They're hard to find, but they are out there. A good example is a person like Bill Foley, who owns Fidelity. He's into wines.
Mm-hmm.
He buys vineyards.
Whole vineyards, right.
Big vineyard.
Yeah. Right.
So, and that's his hobby.
Right.
But it's like a $500 million a year hobby.
Right. Right.
But there are people, angel investors out there, that if they're into what you're into, they can not only provide you with some experience and guidance, but they can provide you with funding.
Right.
But generally, your funding is kind of phased in based upon certain benchmarks. Since you're a veteran, uniquely you would have the opportunity to explore some SBA loan products. I don't know if the SCORE people took you through them.
I did. That's more federal, backed by...
They're guaranteed by the Small Business Administration.
Right.
Which gives a bank, for instance, a level of comfort that if you don't repay the loan, they can count on the guarantee for whatever that portion is.
Exactly.
75% or 85%, it kind of depends. Also, you're a minority, which puts you in another classification as well with SBA funding, and there are certain organizations out there that specifically have capital advantage loan money that they can be able to help you support your request again, but it's with a loan. There's not a lot in the way of grants anymore.
Okay.
We the city provide certain grants for infrastructure. In other words, if a business wants to buy a piece of property and there isn't water and sewer there, or the water and sewer is not adequate to be able to support the growth of their business, then we can provide them, we negotiate it, but we can provide them a grant to support the cost of that infrastructure.
Okay.
But we only, in those instances, work with seasoned businesses that have a track record that we're fairly comfortable that they're going to be successful. But if not, even if not, we've put our money in water and sewer improvements, so somebody else can take advantage of them if they don't succeed.
Right.
But we usually, with grants, there are generally also clawbacks. In other words, performance measures that the grantee has to meet in order to be able to keep the money.
Okay.
The other thing that people need to understand about grants is that it's taxable to you. You have to declare it on your tax return. So you pay you pay a pretty hefty tax. It depends on your tax bracket, but
right. Just like people that get free cars, it's not really free.
It's not really free.
Right.
Nothing is really free.
Right.
You pay for it one way or the other.
Right.
However, it does provide you, with an opportunity, to be able to invest in your future growth. The other means, I guess, would be through the sale of stock or a partnership where other people are willing to join with you, to provide you with some initial capital. But there's not really anybody out there that I'm aware of, any organization out there that I'm aware of, that will say, here, we'll give you a grant of X to be able to start your business. What
about the boarded up businesses downtown that you always see in, major cities that is out there? There's an eyesore sometimes to the city. Do they have any means of loaning that out to a?
It kind of depends. It kind of depends on the city. The Downtown Investment Authority, which is the entity that for Jacksonville that assist with the growth and development of downtown, they do have a loan program that's designed to help businesses upfit the space to suit their business. In other words, you basically get a space. And oftentimes in dilapidated buildings that are boarded up, you have a lot of improvements you have to make to that space to make it usable.
Right.
And the Downtown Investment Authority will provide a certain level of funding to be able to support that, because they'd like to see that space back in productive use.
Right.
But the city of Jacksonville and the state of Florida really don't have any programs where we're willing to provide you with a grant to do that. We want you to be invested. And when people don't pay for something, they don't respect what they get.
I exactly agree with that.
That's after 34 years of business, working in the public and private sector. I started the city, Jacksonville's first small business loan program.
Yes.
And I've learned the hard way. Every loan is not repaid.
Right. In its entirety. Right.
Or at all.
Right. You should see some of the kids that, working in the government, a lot of stuff they get for free.
Well,
so
I was one of the people that helped with the Jacksonville Landing project downtown when it was originally developed in the mid-'80s. And the Department of Housing and Urban Development gave us $250,000 that we could provide as grants or loans to businesses that want to start up in the landing. And we spent the entire $250. If you got it, you spend it.
Right.
So we invested in 5 businesses. None of those businesses are there today.
I believe that.
I went to check on one of the family businesses that it was a chicken restaurant in the food court where you'd go up and get the little chicken strips and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked up there one day just to check on our investment, and I noticed that 2 of the principals of the business were wearing Rolex watches.
Mm.
And I thought that odd. We gave them the money, they bought Rolex watches. I was not a happy camper about that, but what do? They weren't in business longer than 90 days.
Sad.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
But we learned. It was HUD's money. So HUD learned.
Right. They all learned.
We all learned.
Right.
And what we realize is that a lot of people are very well intentioned, but it's hard to determine just how much effort they're willing to put into the business once they get started. And if it's real easy to get started, everybody doesn't stick with it because it's real easy.
Right. Where's their drive?
Yeah. Are they willing to eat peanut butter when their loan payment is due?
Right.
Some people will.
Right.
I've financed businesses where I'm very proud of the people. They did what it takes to make it work against odds that things happen. That I put a guy in business that I was helping him expand his business. He was a restaurateur. He did Cuban food, and I happened to like his Cuban food.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked my butt off to get him a loan to move into a bigger building and have a bigger operation. And 9/11 hit. And one of the things that happened that a lot of people don't realize after 9/11 hit, people quit going out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And he could show me his sales were escalating like this, going straight up, exceeding his projections, and then 9/11 hit and they just dropped 40%. And he couldn't sustain it because the cost of the expanded operation, if he didn't have the business, he couldn't pay him.
Right.
Because he invested all of his equity into it. So he ended up filing for bankruptcy. And those are sad situations, but they happen.
Right.
And it's as an elected official will tell you, if we give grants, it's like rolling the dice, and we're not in the gambling business. We have to be responsible to the taxpayers.
Right.
So there's a fine line as to how those things develop. So we try to work with the private banking sector or the non-bank institutions to kind of come up with programs that will provide some level of support, typically in the form of a low interest rate loan. And the city's working on a new program now. Right now, the one that we have in place is designed to help a certified business that's gone through the small and emerging business programs requirements, and you get a contract with the city or one of our agencies. We have a loan program to help them finance the contract.
Okay.
So they can build up the working capital they need to sustain it and continue to grow. Because what you probably learned this in finance if you haven't already, expanding businesses require greater amounts of working capital.
Right. Right.
And a lot of people don't take that into consideration. And then they find that, wow, I'm expanding like crazy, I'm selling more than I anticipated, but I can't afford to pay my employees.
Right.
That ain't good. Employees expect to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to Florida in 1978. My brother-in-law recruited me to run a truck equipment manufacturing business that they bought down here. It had been closed. And they liked me and thought I would do a good job for them because I had a banking background. I was a banker. I understand finance. I understand cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I learned was we were selling the hell out of truck equipment, but I spent all my time collecting my receivables and holding off paying my payables,
Right.
so that my employees were paid, and I needed, in those days, it was called cleared funds. I needed cleared funds in the bank by Wednesday to pay them on Friday. And it was not what I expected. You know, I did it for 2 years, and I kind of said, you know, I'm done with this. I was used to having a lot of people as a small business. I mean, I was not the owner, but I was the on-site person.
Right. They answered all the questions.
So if something had to get done and I didn't have anybody paid staff to do it, then I got to do it.
Right.
You know, so I learned every aspect of that business except that I didn't weld. I don't weld.
Right.
But I can paint.
You had to do everything that the workers had to do.
I learned how to do it.
Right.
It was in my best interest to learn too. Ruined my wardrobe too. But I had to learn. But I had to learn from that experience about me. You know, I mean, I was willing to put in the time and the effort, but I didn't find it rewarding. I found it draining, and my wife at that particular time was not very happy with me. So it showed. I mean, you know, when you're totally focused on something and you ignore everything else, everything else becomes a problem. And that's one of the things that I don't think a lot of small business people understand when they go into business, because they need that focus.
Right.
So you need everybody that's with you, supportive of what you're trying to do.
That support is key.
Support is very key.
Yeah. So it's when you put in 14, 15, 16 hours a day.
And all your money's invested.
Yes. Yes.
And you got loans to pay.
Yes. And you're stressed out at work and at home. I understand that.
Yeah. So, but there are certain rewards to it. I mean, a lot of people have more control over what they do. And if they really enjoy it, it isn't like work.
Not work. Right.
You know, once you get out there and start, you know, playing with your mixes, getting engrossed in that, you may hit the home run. And if you do, wow, it's Bentley time.
No, I don't think about Bentley.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that's my dream car. But,
Bentley?
yeah.
Drop top? Two-door?
I liked it. I liked the GTC, but I like the Mulsanne, the big sedan.
Yeah. It's a big car.
Yeah, 350,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. So, what other? Well, you know, we just had One Spark. Are there other events that mimic One Spark that Jacksonville is partaking in?
This is One Spark started here.
Right.
And they've had 2 years of it. And the crowdfunding concept is one of those that's growing. Although I think the problem with One Spark is it's so spread out and there's so many different venues. It's hard to get people that would be willing to provide real serious money, you know, to take a look. But I'm sure they will refine their process as they go.
Right.
It's almost like Shark Tank. You ever watch Shark Tank?
Of course, yes, sir.
Okay. So having people that are willing to fund your dream, it's a great concept, but they really end up running your business.
So money.
So there's a fine balance. So one of the things that future entrepreneurs need to be aware of when they begin to think that they want to start a business is that the first thing that they need to do is to make sure that their credit is clean. And I also recommend that they have direct experience in the business that they want to go in. If you want to start a the business that you're talking about, I suggest you work in one of those breweries where restaurant breweries, get some experience.
Mm-hmm. That's a common theme of, everybody I talk to. That's one of the things that they look for in talking about money. How much experience do you have?
Yeah.
If you don't have any experience, how...
Brew pubs, that's what they're called.
Mm-hmm. When would I get my money back?
Well, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Because in your particular case, the cash flows are going to be, you're going to have to give that a lot of thought because a lot of your product is going to have to be aged.
Correct.
So you've got to have the space to store. You've got to have the storage means, whether it's a wood barrel or whatever it might be, and then you have to sit there and look at it and love it for however long it is to age,
right.
And hope, at the end of the aging process, it tastes the way you hoped it would taste.
Exactly.
Because you don't know.
Exactly. A lot of times in this type of particular business, they'll buy stock from other companies that have aged already until their product has matured.
That's a strategy.
Right. A lot of times, but then you pay for it. Either way, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned downtown landing. I know there's talks about the harbor also being approved. Projects down there.
You mean the shipyards?
Your shipyards.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. The shipyards.
That's okay.
Is it going to be the same concept? All right.
There's going to be a retail component, but I think it's going to be more of a serious mixed use.
Okay.
There's going to be office, residential, and then there's going to be a certain amount of retail to be able to support that. However, as they begin to develop their programming of the space,
mm-hmm.
if they have an opportunity to do a larger portion of retail, they may take the chance.
Right. Ratio might change.
Mr. Khan is he's a good investor.
He has a lot of money.
He has a lot of money, but he's earned it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He put in those 18-hour days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Making bumpers. That's how they started.
I didn't know that.
And it's their biggest money maker. They manufacture bumpers for SUVs and small trucks. And it's a very unique Flex and Gate. It's a very unique bumper, evidently, and it's well accepted in the market. So
perfect the craft and just continue on.
Well, he was an engineer, so.
Okay. He has the engineering type of side.
Yeah. And he bought the business that he interned in.
Ain't bad.
Ain't bad.
Ain't bad.
Took advantage of an opportunity.
Right.
And many do. You may want to, since you're interested in going into business, you may want to take a look at a bunch of different strategies to be able to support you during that aging period.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to begin to market your product so that people know that you have it,
mm-hmm.
and have the ability to be able to taste it.
Mm-hmm.
Might be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a hobby.
For people that drink it, might be
right,
fun.
It's going to be a hobby. Just getting the taste right, I might, be inebriated every day, but I get the taste right. That's the main thing. Like I said, this is for my schools, for my hobby. If I ever turn it into an actual business, I'll be happy also. But first, I want to make sure that I can have fun with it.
Well, you never want to put that in a business plan.
Right, I'm not.
Because the IRS will not allow you to take the deductions for a hobby.
Right.
And you might want to tell your classmates that too. It needs to be a serious business where there's a hope of being able to turn a profit within the first 5 years.
Right.
Or then they can come back and say it's a hobby, and all of the deductions that you were able to take, all that becomes taxable. That ain't pretty.
That's not.
Then the IRS owns you.
Right.
And the whole goal of an entrepreneur, as I understand it, is to be self-sufficient and grow and benefit from your hard work.
Right.
Grow that net worth.
Right.
Which is a great goal.
It's a great goal. It's hard to do. Not a lot of people do it.
50% of all new businesses fail within the first 3 years. If you make it past 5 years, you're probably going to be successful for a long term.
Mm-hmm.
The fall off is pretty severe, and there are a lot of reasons, and but the biggest one is generally being undercapitalized. And expanding too fast. That's how you become undercapitalized. You expand too fast. And the other thing is, once you make your initial investment, you need to have 2 years of operation before you can really go in and expect a bank to provide you any funding. It's better if you need bank financing to be involved in your business. It's better to get it in the beginning, because once you've spent all of your money,
mm-hmm.
they're not going to bail you out, because that's exactly what it appears to them to be,
right.
A bailout.
Right.
So if borrowed money is part of the equation, you want it earlier than later.
Yeah, that's something they never talked about.
No. And the other thing that you need to be aware of and maintain is a good financial statement.
Right.
They need to be current and accurate. And there's always a tendency for small business people, especially people in the service-related businesses,
mm-hmm.
not to report all of their income. But they report all of their expenses, and they add some of their own household expenses on there, because they can get by with it. And that's fine until you need to borrow money.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not showing a profit, people aren't going to lend you money.
Right.
That's a big mistake that small business people, especially in the service-related businesses, make. And there are discussion about 2 sets of books. One set of books for the IRS and another set of books for the banker. The banker doesn't buy that one.
Right.
Because the banker is going to make their decision based upon your tax returns.
Exactly.
Because that's what their auditors make them do.
Exactly.
And when the comptroller of the currency comes in to audit them, that's what they make them do. Justify it based upon the tax returns that are available when the loan was made.
Right.
So there are a lot of myths out there, but if you want to sustain your business for a long term, then you need to keep a good set of books and an accurate set of books.
Correct.
And then that'll pay big dividends that day when you want to sell the business, because you can show that it's profitable, and people buy businesses based upon the profit that it generates.
Well, you say keep accurate books, but you have big businesses that don't do that. Big corporations that you can see them. They fail all the time that don't keep an accurate book. It catches up to them.
It does.
Right. So, I'm glad you mentioned that. So.
And if you falsify the books,
mm-hmm.
it not only catches up with you, but you can end up going to jail.
Right. Right.
And then the IRS all of a sudden becomes a real menace.
Right. Become your real enemy.
Yeah.
So that's a good deal.
And the other thing that I would just suggest that you share with the class is that it generally takes longer to do what you want to do, and it costs more than you think it's going to cost. That seems to be a common theme with all the businesses that I work with. It took longer to get started. It cost more. Fortunately, they had a reserve.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to be able to know the mechanics of what the business is going to do, and you need to learn that through hard knocks. And it's better to learn it at somebody else's expense versus as your own. That's why I say work for a brew pub or someplace where you can understand and learn the brewery process,
mm-hmm.
the fermentation process, the chemical process.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to have to keep samples Because when the government comes in, they're going to have something, they want to test something. And if you got something that's aging for 5 years, you better have some samples that they can test.
Right.
You know, I'm going in and busting up a keg.
Right.
But I'm sure there's some way that they know how to do that without destroying the barrel or whatever. But
quality assurance is major. Health is a big factor, especially in the service industry. So,
yeah.
Licensing, just again, the licensing is a major hurdle also. So.
Well, people have been drinking homebrew for hundreds of years.
Right. Right. Just not. Well, they've been selling it for hundreds of years also.
Yeah.
So.
But it gets a little more sophisticated once you put a label on it and you sell it to the public.
Right.
Openly.
Right. Right.
With a brand.
Right. But hey, government, look at me. So.
The Lawless. I don't know if you've seen the movie Lawless, but you know they were in the brewery business.
Yep. Yep. So it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's a huge underground. It's a huge business. Period.
Well, I was raised in Ohio, and I lived in Cincinnati, and I was a banker, and we banked a lot of the smaller banks in Kentucky and Tennessee, and lots of brewing going on.
Right. Right. Lots
of brewing.
Lots.
Yeah.
So that's a good deal.
They do a lot of growing too, but things that.
Yes. Yes. Well, hey, Florida's gonna turn around 55% voted. So.
Yeah. It's interesting.
It's interesting, yes, sir.
Well, I admire what your goal is, and I admire people that are willing, you know, to take a look at. Look, I want to run my own and operate my own business, and be the captain of my ship. I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for that group that is so dedicated that they become successful, you know, that breeds a whole nother generation,
right,
of people, and that's what America is built on.
Right.
You know, the Fortune 500s are taking us over.
Yeah. That 1%.
Yeah. And we keep getting squeezed.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I admire what you're doing, and I would encourage, you know, everybody that it's in your class to make sure that they think through what they're doing and understand not only the financing and the projections, but understand the process
mm-hmm.
of taking whatever their product or service is, you know, from inception to sale to collect.
Mm-hmm.
What is the process, number one, and detail it out. And then what is the time frame, and where is the money invested, so you know where you are in the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now I'm having need to have my pool resurfaced, and I'm dealing with a bunch of entrepreneurs. And the range in prices, it's amazing.
Yes.
You know, and I got one bid from a vendor that was 3 pages, and I was looking at all the things that, you know, are included, you know, in the bid. I know what my end result is, but I'm reading all this stuff, and I just had kind of jokingly said, well, I see all this other stuff. Where are the paper clips? You didn't put any paper clips in it.
All right.
But what's beneficial about that is I know she's telling me basically in her bid what the steps are.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a better understanding of the process. So when the other person comes in with a bid that's $3,000 higher, you know, well, I'm going to
compare it. Right.
Yeah. Then I got the low bid guy who came in, and we were going to actually I was ready to give him a check on Friday. And he says, oh, well, your bid didn't include this.
Right, what steps was missing?
It didn't include that. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, to do all that, it's $7,500. I said, well, hey, I'm going to get some other estimates.
Right.
You know,
right.
But what's important is that if you're going to have a business, to understand and chart the process.
Mm-hmm. And
then do a timeline on the process. Because unless you're actually, like in retail, you do a cash sale.
Right.
Okay. When you're in the service business, you can either charge half up front and then get the other half upon completion or whatever. It depends on, on the nature of the service. But there's a time frame for it. So you know when you're going to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And you know where you're investing your money. When you're starting to do your first batch of your 5-year aged product, that's all investment. There's going to be no return for at least 5 years.
Right.
And there's a cost. So it's a sunk cost.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you'll be able to get the margin at the end of the 5 years to be able to justify the cost. But you need to track it so that at the end of 5 years, when you start selling that, you have a good understanding of what your profit really is. Because that's a key number to know.
Right.
Because you're going to continue to put in product that's going to age 5 years.
Right at the end of the 5 years.
There's going to be a spin-off, but you're going to maintain a certain inventory level.
Correct.
And that's a sunk cost for you.
Correct.
And there aren't too many people that are willing to invest in that, unless it's really good stuff.
Right. Right.
Because it's amazing, certain products hit the market and they take off, and boom, it's smooth sailing from there, as long as you keep your quality and your marketing. The other thing that people in business need to understand, that marketing is a day-to-day thing. You always have to do it.
Right.
You
Constant.
You need to build a pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a while to build that pipeline. It takes a while to build reputation.
Right.
And to get repeat business. So you always have to be marketing. So a person has to allocate X number of hours a week to do that.
Right.
And they have to decide what strategies they're going to employ and be able to reach the people that would buy their product.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very process oriented if you do it right. And people that go into business thinking, hoping the business is going to walk in the door.
No, not the case.
They have some realities to be able to deal with at some point.
Right. Unless they had the only product in the game, and
But it's exciting. But the more time you spend looking at the plan and the process,
mm-hmm.
that's good time. It's good time invested.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's important to learn what the process is. When I was in the truck body business, I had to learn from when the piece of flat steel comes in, what it takes to take that flat steel to turn it into a truck body.
Mm-hmm.
And their truck bodies have different features and they're different types of bodies, and the process and the cost structure is different for each, and I had to learn all that. My shop guy was he knew machinery, but he didn't understand the business end of it.
Right.
So I had to learn that. He could make anything, but could I make a profit on it at the end of, after he finished?
Right.
But he could make anything. And so I had to spend a lot of time learning the process of things. So I knew when he was scamming me and when he wasn't.
Right.
Because I'm investing my money and my partner's money in this thing. So then I had another guy, of course, that was selling it, but as I shared with you, I spent my time selling, but most of my time was spent collecting receivables and holding off paying payables, because we could have used more working capital.
Right. Buffer, as you need. Right.
We were more successful in the first year than we thought we'd be, and as a result, we ended up having a tight working capital situation. And that's not fun to work under. When you're under financial pressure every day.
Every day. Stressful.
It is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But
you learn.
That's the name of the game.
Right.
that's the stuff that you have to go through to appreciate it. And then you go, the opportunity to sit down and talk to a banker, and you got your whole life invested in this thing, and they're looking at you like you got 3 heads.
Right. Right. Right.
You know, hey.
It might be important to you, but to him,
Yeah. He needs to know his loan's going to be repaid.
right, it's numbers.
And they're numbers oriented, and they're also going to run your credit, and it's important to make sure that not only your personal credit's in good shape, but your trade credit, you pay within the time frame of the industry standard.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get to know certain suppliers, they'll work with you. That's another interesting thing that I learned. Well, Joe, we'll work with you. What does that mean? Well, you don't have to pay in 30 days. Pay it in 90 days. You know, you're selling, we're happy, you know. So, but that's relationship building, which is another thing,
Right.
you know. But your business is more, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, it should be. So you're going to do this in a vacuum, or you're going to have a restaurant to be able to experiment with?
The restaurant piece is another animal also,
Yeah.
as you know.
Are you thinking about that too?
I'm thinking about that, like I said, initially just going to be a taste room where I can actually sell. I can sell in a taste room.
Okay.
I can sell a percentage of my product in taste room. That's hypothetical. But eventually I want to have my brewery and a restaurant at the same time, which is the most ideal situation.
Yeah.
And so.
Diversify your income too.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Restaurants have their own headaches. My mom was in the restaurant business
big headache also.
for 35 years, and the one thing I learned as a kid growing up is I don't want to be in the restaurant business.
Right. Right.
That is hard work.
It's hard work. It's
And if
extremely
you're not
hard.
watching the cash register, people are either not putting it in or they're taking it out.
Right.
And the other place it goes is out the back door.
Right. Right.
You know,
It's difficult. Difficult business.
you gotta be on premise,
Yeah.
or have somebody that you trust.
Right.
On
I'll have a
premise.
small staff, and like you said, somebody to trust. But
Yeah.
if you want to expand, then you got to deal with the headache.
Yeah. But it's exciting.
If you love it.
So what do you think you're going to launch?
Not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. I'm going to start experimenting.
Okay.
Actually, got a fence put up. Talking about contracts. Got 3 bids. Got a fence put up in my house. Vinyl fence. Now I can start brewing in my privacy in my house without anybody.
Okay.
Onlookers. So I'm gonna start perfecting my craft, and then start, giving it out for Christmas presents.
Are you familiar with the chemistry?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like I said, I'm gonna start with my base. My mash is gonna be peach for my gold product, and that should be fun. I'm gonna start with gold and just work my way up to the next product after I perfect this product. So it should be fun.
So you're gonna put together kind of a one-pager that talks about your product?
Yeah, I already have it on there, so.
Okay. Email it to me.
Okay, yeah, I got a lot of things. Our class is very thorough. That's one thing. They put us through the ringer to make sure that we are not inept, but we are in tune of what our product is going to be. So we go through the marketing side and have like I said, business plan is very.
Your projections?
My projections on here also.
You got month to month for the first 2 years?
I got for 3 years.
Okay.
So not making a lot of money, but a lot of capital investment
Sure.
there. So
Yeah.
and startup was 100,000 of my funds because, like you said, you need to be able to show that you put in some of your money in this process.
Got to have skin in the game.
Yes. Yes. So
This myth that, I'm going to give you a grant to start your business, as I tell people when I get that question at least 3 times a day. I tell them, well, if we gave grants for people to start businesses, you'd be talking to somebody else on the phone right now because I would have got my grant and started my business a long time ago.
You be telling somebody else, are you giving out grants to start any business?
Okay. But I guess late at night these infomercials come on where you can go to this course and learn to, get grants to start businesses, and they sell these books for like $40, and then you read the books, and those programs may have existed one day, but they're not current today.
Right.
Unless they're funded, They're just concepts.
Right.
And there have been some good concepts out there, but, you know, we in government have learned in the grant business that it's not one of the better businesses to be in.
Right. I agree.
And then in our government, we have a mayor and 19 city council members. And the mayor is the chief executive officer, and the 19 council members like the board of directors.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in private sector, you know, the CEO goes to the board of directors and gets their approval. In our situation, we get the opportunity to get the mayor's approval. Then we have to go before the 19-member board to get their approval. So we get the opportunity to do a song and dance.
Right. Right.
You know, and council members, you know, have various and sundry backgrounds. Some of them are small business owners. There's a couple lawyers, I think. There's some accountants, a CFO. I mean, you know, they have some good questions and they can read.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we have to be prepared. So the projects that we work on, you know, we have to be very thorough and make sure that we've done our research and our homework. You know, so as a small business owner, you're your board of directors.
Right.
You know. And I don't know if they exposing you at all to angel investors.
They have. Just finished reading this book called Locally Invest, where it talks about all the different types of investment opportunities that are out there. There is somebody that's taking that for more explanation, and they're going to explain to the class more in detail about angel investors. In terms of how to go about pursuing them, no, I do not know. I know they're out there. I know there's a plethora of ways to get money.
Yeah, there are, and that's probably one of the better ways, because the angel investor will generally have a lot of good business and investment knowledge that can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And they become kind of like a taskmaster or project manager. You know, they move you from point one, you know, they move you through the process.
Right.
Because they want their money back.
Right, they want to see you successful.
But they want to see you successful.
Right.
You know, because they get a piece of the action generally.
Right.
Pretty hefty piece depending upon, you know, the type of business. And right now, if you've got $100,000, you know, putting in the bank, you get 2% interest.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are willing to take a little bit more risk and find some other investment options, you know, you can hit some home runs, and that's why the angel investor community is growing.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people have been in business, sold their business. They thought they were going to retire. They bought their Corvette,
mm-hmm.
but they're bored.
Right. Right.
You know, you can only play golf at the most one time a day. You know.
Right.
But so the point is, if you can identify those networks
mm-hmm.
and hook in, and most of it is based upon, it's kind of like Shark Tank, it's based upon what you've written, and these people can go through a prospectus or a proposal, and they know what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of it is being able to make, you know, a presentation. In your particular case, you're probably going to have samples of
right, exactly.
the product.
Exactly.
And that's going to probably be funded on by you
right.
or friends and family.
Right.
You know. But I'll tell you what, if you hit it. Whew,
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree.
Because then it becomes, you know, then that's when the marketing stuff begins to become more important, and
mm-hmm.
then the warehouse and distribution, you know. But it's a great ride.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for you.
Don't get excited yet, sir.
Well,
you know,
but for your class people, I mean, if you got the dream and you're willing to invest the time and you really think about the process, the steps of what you're doing,
mm-hmm.
you can be successful.
I agree.
You know. And your spouse or significant other has to appreciate what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to be looking around and they're not going to find you.
Right. Money being spent.
And, you know, spouses and significant others get bored and start spending your money because
Right.
you're not around.
Right. Right. That's true.
But, you know, so it's, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're going to make the leap, then you need to have supportive people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Because every day isn't the best. You know, there are going to be those days when, you know, everything goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And there are going to be days when everything goes right. And then when you get to the point where you rely on employees, well, employees aren't nearly as motivated as the owner.
Right.
And they're not nearly as dedicated as the owner.
Right.
So you need to know what it is you want them to do and have performance expectations so that they don't waste your time and money. The art of management.
Right.
You know about that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Some people only do what they're told.
Right. Know what they should be doing, everything else. But
Yeah,
hey, you assume one thing and you might surely fail. So
it does.
yeah.
Well, I'm excited for you.
Thank you, sir.
Wish I had some grants to offer you to put in.
I'm glad the words of wisdom is enough for me. And I greatly appreciate you just sitting down and talking to me today.
Sure. And try to tap into the Angel Investment Network, because that's where they're willing, if they believe in you and they believe in your concept, they're willing to invest their money where their mouth is.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you're giving up a significant portion of your company.
Exactly.
But done with the gold makes the rules.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So it's true.
So where do you buy your equipment? You just got a catalog?
Well, no, online.
Okay.
Technically, it's not a red flag, but it could be. If you buy it and you don't have the licensing fees and you don't license your product, but if you brewing that inside your house for consumption of inside your house, you're okay. The startup equipment is not that much for a small type of distillery. I cataloged it out online to less than $5,000.
Okay.
So that's not a lot, but for bigger, more mainstream production is quite capital intensive.
Yes.
And
Do you use stainless steel vats?
Stainless steel.
Yeah.
I actually got a chance to visit a lot of breweries from a lot of craft breweries. I did interviews,
Oh, good. Okay.
recorded the process. Then to the big brewery down here in Budweiser, huge plant. But
Did they welcome you with open arms?
yes, it was like, hey, well,
They're neat people.
and they're great people. Taste and all their
They give you
fresh.
a bud. They give you a bud on the way out.
fresh product. Tastes a lot different
Yeah.
than what you get in the store.
Yeah.
And their process is very unique. They age some of their process also. Not as long as a liqueur or liquor, but they still have an aging process. You have a lot of niche craft breweries here. I still need to go visit down at St. Augustine there. There's still a distillery down there. Haven't had a chance to go down there yet, but it's great. It's almost to the point, though, soon it might be too many craft breweries out there. They always talked about that, but there's a lot of situations where people get taken over. That's one thing that I talked to a lot of these owners. They're waiting for the day to get bought out. But even being bought out is a good thing for them because they made their brew, they had fun with it, and they're willing to let go of their business, their child sometimes. So it's one of those things. The other big issue is the distribution, because they have to pay a lot for just distributing their product. It's a 3-tier system, and that's always been in place. But you can work your way around it with having your own restaurant, have your own taste room. So
Yeah. And the distributor makes it,
distributor makes money.
whether it sells or not.
Exactly. So everybody makes money.
Yeah.
And the owner's sitting there just waiting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an adventure.
It is.
But if God gives you the grace to hit it, Yeah, it's very rewarding.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And you'll be a seasoned veteran in no time.
Yeah, hopefully.
Just don't expand too fast.
No, that's one thing that they talked about too. They talked about almost every book I read. They talked about expanding too fast and how, especially in the .com era, when people was coming with some elaborate plan. It looked good. They bought all this equipment, huge capital, and what do you know? They fell the next month.
Yeah, the way you're doing it is a very prudent way to do it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I wish you much luck.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome.